All right, my name is Chris Bush. I'm a happiness expert, and my claim to fame is that in 31 different countries, I've been mistaken for Mark Zuckerberg.
I can see that.
So the Arctic Innovation Forum is all about bringing thought leaders from around the world to share their thoughts on how we're going to bring and innovate into the next decade. And my personal contribution will be helping companies learn how the millennials think, the people currently aged 18 to 36, how they think, and also what inspires them, which to me is an offshoot of happiness.
Absolutely.
And then to your second question, why is it important to have it in Kalix? Because Kalix is beautiful, and everyone needs to come to Sweden and see how, despite the Swedish silence, how friendly everyone is.
Mm. Thank you. And you're going to discuss happiness and productivity during this innovation forum. Is there really a connection between these two, and how are they linked?
Absolutely. So a happy employee is up to 50% more productive and 50% less likely to leave. The two reasons that a millennial, a young person, quits a job, the top two reasons. Number one, they feel a lack of personal growth. Number two, they feel that their company isn't benefiting the world beyond profit. Both are tied back to happiness. So we see a generation coming up that's placing a tremendous value on being happy in the workplace. But even the most bottom line driven company that needs output should find value in that as well. Because again, a happy employee is a productive employee.
Mhm. And some may argue to that productivity can come from sadness. For example, a singer who writes about heartbreak and things like that. What would you have to say to them?
That's absolutely true. You can work your way out of unhappiness, especially if you find work that's fulfilling to you. But the productivity doesn't come from just the sadness. It comes from the happiness created from the productivity that overwrites the sadness.
And is it true that 71% of employees under 35 are not engaged at work?
That is true. That was true in 2016. I think that statistic is only going to increase unless companies start to see the value in how to engage young people at work. You can squeeze any amount of productivity out of a young, high-powered college graduate. You can make them very productive for about 12 months. But if you can't engage them, if you can't fulfill them, then there's always going to be a short fuse on that young person. They're going to quit, and they're going to work for somebody that does.
How can we as a society change this type of thing? And what can inspire the millennials?
Absolutely. So what I've found in my journeys, what I've tried to quantify in terms of the metrics of happiness, I found happiness comes from 7 things. It comes from your time, your talent, your treasure, your bank account, your wisdom, your health, and your purpose, and your relationships. So those 7 things. And traditionally in America, especially a capitalist-driven society, bottom line driven, has focused entirely on offering employees currency, money. But they're taking a lot in exchange. So in exchange for money, they're asking for your time, your freedom. They're asking for sometimes your health. People can go crazy working too hard in America. Sometimes they're asking for your relationships. Your relationships can weaken if you're in a job that's not healthy or a good fit, or you're just working too much. So what I'm seeing happen and what I'm trying to drive myself is more companies are offering their employees more currencies. So they'll say things like, yes, we'll pay you a fair wage, but we'll also cultivate social opportunities so you can build relationships with your employees and with your mentors. We're going to offer you a mentorship program so you can build your talents and your wisdom. We're going to offer you opportunities to learn, just like you did in college. We're going to bring in a speech coach, a public speaking coach, a creative writing coach. So what they're doing is offering more of these happiness currencies, and they can fulfill young people that way. And it's always a two-way street. It's not just the companies spending money and not seeing returns. If you have a happy and engaged workforce that's also learning life skills on a routine basis, then of course you're going to get higher productivity out of that as well.
And what defines generations Y and Z? And can you tell us a little more about those generations?
Sure. Every generation, or every definition of a generation, everyone's definition is different. Mine is millennials are the generation born from 1982 to 2000. I got that from asking people outside of that range, hey, are you a millennial? No, I'm not a millennial. Until I got to 1982 and 2000, and they said, I think I am a millennial. That was where I got my definition. And Generation Z, I should clarify, millennial and Generation Y, to me, are synonymous.
Okay.
And Generation Z are after us, so everyone in high school. So for the next 4 years, the millennials will be graduating from college, and then we'll have Generation Z. But a lot of companies are getting frustrated with millennials and saying, we'll just wait for Generation Z to show up. But they're going to bring a lot of the same demands, that we want to feel more fulfilled at work for multiple happiness currencies, as it were.
Yes. And with this project that we're working on with depression and anxiety, what would your advice be to people who do feel depression and anxiety? What should they do?
The first step is to seek help. If you, a psychotherapist, a trained professional, is not someone that you should see when you wait until the problem becomes really severe. It's focus on preventative care. I have friends that are perfectly happy, but they'll still see a psychotherapist once a month just to check in. It's a great way to spend a little bit of money to keep your mental faculties in check and to make sure that you're consistently on a happiness track. So the first step, of course, is to see a professional and try to see them routinely if you can. The second step is to self-diagnose. So if you think you're unhappy, ask yourself, write these 7 things down on a piece of paper: time, talent, treasure, health, relationships, and wisdom, and purpose. And measure all 7 of those for yourself. And maybe you'll find that one of your happiness currencies has fallen apart. And maybe you feel really driven, but you have poor health. You're not sleeping enough, you're not working out enough. Well, now you know what to do. Maybe you've found that you've got plenty of money, but you're not practicing things that you care about. So you've got plenty of treasure, but you don't have the talents. So use that tool to self-diagnose where your happiness might have fallen short, and then fix accordingly.
I think a huge misconception about depression is it's not always looking out the window and sulking. It can come in different shapes and forms. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us about your personal experience?
My experience with depression has been it's not necessarily just negative emotion, it's the absence of emotion. You don't process emotions the same way. Everything seems off and miscalibrated in your mind. For example, when I was at work, I accidentally intercepted an email from my parents that said my grandfather was terminally ill. I wasn't supposed to know that, and that was supposed to be a family conversation, but I got an email by accident. So my grandfather was one of my greatest heroes and mentors. So I should have been devastated to hear that news, but I didn't feel anything because I was depressed. I couldn't process anything the same way. That's when I knew something was wrong, and I needed to seek professional help. So I wouldn't say depression is just sadness. It's nothingness. It's the absence of emotion. So for me now, when I can use what I've learned about happiness around the world to erect mental defenses and self-diagnose and fix myself when I feel depressed, I then start to feel happiness but also sadness at the same time. My emotions are more of a sinusoidal curve, and that feels really beautiful to actually feel emotions as opposed to nothing at all.
Yes, and this is the last question. It puts you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
If you would pick a theme song for your mission or work, what would it be, and can you sing it for us?
Oh man, a theme song for my work. I can't sing anything, but
Yes, you can.
I gotta think.
That can be your own song also. A jingle you make up.
Okay. The first song that comes to mind is that song from Mulan. The one that's like, let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. But for me, it would be like depression or sadness. It'd be like, let's get down to business to defeat the sad.
Beautiful, thank you so much.
All right.